I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, an issue is exclusive. Former California Governor Jerry Brown's first TV interview since the election of Donald Trump. How did Trump win, and where did Democrats go from here? Then, Dr. Drew Pinsky on efforts to make America healthy again. What exactly does that mean? The Issue Is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, you're watching The Issue Is.
And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, an exclusive conversation with a man with the single most impressive resume of public service in the history of California. Jerry Brown was a four-term governor, served as the state's attorney general, secretary of state, the mayor of Oakland, the chair of the California Democratic Party, and his father was also a two-term governor of California as well. This is his first TV interview since Donald Trump's election. Governor Brown, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Well, thank you. It's a real pleasure.
And thank you for giving us the exclusive. We appreciate it.
Yeah. By the way, here we are in 2024. It's 50 years this year, in fact, this month, that I was elected governor of California the first time.
Wow. Well, nobody's seen all the stuff that you've seen, which is why we're so grateful to have your perspective. Big moment in American history. Why do you think Donald Trump won?
He won for a number of factors. But first of all, there was a lot of discontent. The Biden administration was not popular. People had a memory that was positive of the 4 years under Donald Trump. That's what they told the pollsters. So you had Trump, even though he has a lot of controversy, a lot of warts, a lot of strange things, the majority of people thought they were better off during his 4 years. I think that was the predominant factor, but also I think the wars, the nightly specter of all the bombs going off in Gaza and in Lebanon and in Ukraine, all that creates a real discontent and a feeling we got to change something. Something's got to give. So they voted for Trump. Not a lot, 49.9%. So he didn't get a majority, but he came very close.
Some have speculated that this wasn't as much a Trump win as a Democratic loss. Why do you think the Democrats lost?
There's discontent, the inflation. People don't like what's going on, all these wars. They vote out the incumbents. You know, if in doubt, throw them out. That's the mood. So people want to express themselves when they're not so happy by changing the leader, the president or the governor. That's exactly what happened.
Well, speaking of that, we know you are a few years older than President Biden. You've known him since the 70s. What do you make of the way that he was treated? Should he have gotten out earlier? Did the party do the right thing in trying to get him out in the middle of the summer?
Well, look, he was slowing down, no question. And I don't think it's a news flash that when you get in your 80s, a lot of people fall by the wayside. I keep in good touch with my high school class, and half of them are dead, more than half. And a lot of them are slowing down. So that's just where you are. And I think Joe was around. He stayed, he won, but he definitely had some deterioration there, and that didn't help. You got to be vigorous. Especially when you see all that war going on, you're looking for a lot of energy in the leader. And for all the various reasons of age and health, Joe couldn't portray that in the way that people wanted. And Trump, for all his foibles and all the things he does, you know, from the lies to the philandering to the this and the that, he's got energy, and he's a phenomenon. He's a force, and that was powerful.
Do you think that Biden should have gotten out sooner?
Yeah, I think that's an obvious. You know, why did he hang on? We do that. Mayor Curley, famous politician in Boston many years ago, said there's only two ways to get out. They either carry you out or they throw you out. Some people stay to the bitter end and they throw them out. Some people die in office. But this politics is addictive because it's exciting. It's a kind of psychic cocaine. And you're constantly getting stimulated by all the conflict, the fear, the triumph, whatever, and people don't want to just go back to their former boring lives. That's just the way it is. So people don't like to give up.
Was it hard for you to walk away? Do you miss the cocaine?
No, not at all. Of course, I had a lot of it. I had my share. I got to be governor 4 times. I got 4 elections. I got a nice defeat from Pete Wilson for the Senate. So, and I had a lot. I mean, I did a lot of elections. You put that list, even left one off. I was elected to the Los Angeles Community College Board of Trustees.
Yes.
There were 114 candidates. I came in one. That's an adrenaline high. So, but how much adrenaline do you need? I'm back at my ranch. We got the coyotes and the rattlesnakes and the elk and the rain and the trees. It's a good anecdote. So you have the cocaine high, and then you have the pastoral peace of Colusa County.
Yeah, we won't even get into the 70s when there were some real cocaine highs happening. I don't know if that happened with you.
No, as a matter of fact, no. But I don't talk about that anyway. But it was a lot. There was a lot going on.
You hang with some pretty cool musicians back then. So you were governor during the first part of Trump's presidency. We have some video of both of you at the Woolsey fire. I was out there with you for that. It was right when after Gavin Newsom had been elected, he was governor-elect at that moment. So you know what it's like to deal with him. What is it like to be a governor and have to call him, to interact with him? What's that relationship like?
Well, in the limited time I had, he was very gracious. As I say, he's got a lot of energy. He's interesting. Sat in the helicopter with him for 45 minutes with Newsom, with General Kelly, with Jared, his son-in-law. He did 95% of the talking, but there's an energy there. There's an excitement. And he later then took us back on Air Force One, the first time I was ever on that plane. So, and I think I talked to him once about an emergency declaration because of the fire. So my experience, very limited, but very positive.
Interesting that you say that. Where do you think the National Democratic Party should go from here? How do they get back to winning?
I think they have to have a very simple but strong economic message. It's a skewed economy, and the Democrats have to respond to that. And they also have to deal with all the wars. Harry Truman, when he beat Dewey, that was an upset. 48, I was 10 years old then. He went around the country, give him hell, Harry, and he blamed the Republican Congress, the do-nothing Congress. It was a very simple economic message. It was not complicated. It didn't get into a lot of other controversies. It was all about the forgotten American, the average American. We're going to help you. And Trump takes up that line. I think his whole program is not going to do that. Tax cuts that primarily help the rich, that's not going to be any good. Putting a bunch of tariffs will raise the cost of everything you buy at the store. So, yeah, the Democrats have a great chance, but they got to get down to the basics.
Well, and what is that message? Because you think about almost your entire life in politics, going back to Harry Truman, the Democrats have always been the party of the working class. The Republicans have been the party of the country club. And now we're seeing that start to change. What is that message real concisely for the Democrats?
Well, you know, there is a gap here between the people who went through college and certainly the ones who got advanced degrees, PhDs, law degrees, medical degrees, and people who just got out of high school, and they're in a much uncertain world in the economy. And Democrats got to, get off the college campus, start spending more time at the mall and in factories and in ordinary offices, where what we politicians call the real people spend their time. So we got to get more real, more down to earth in the language, in the policies, and the way we show up in the world.
Up next, more with Governor Jerry Brown. We talk about his ranch in Colusa County. He gets personal about his future and the future of the state. We are talking with Jerry Brown, the four-term governor of California. What do you make of the job that your successor, Gavin Newsom, is doing? How do you assess how he's doing?
Well, I think he's doing, actually he's doing pretty good. I like him, particularly what he's doing on climate. And now he's riding a very good budget wave. And he's been innovative. I think he's, I'd say on balance, very good.
Do you talk to Governor Newsom?
Not all that often. I've talked to him really a couple of times since he's been a governor. I've talked to him before, but never that much. Look, when you're a governor, you got a lot to do, and you're primarily focusing and surrounded by your staff, by your supporters, by your political analysts. It's a very intense program. Newsom is a very focused guy. He probably wants to be president. He wants to be a big success as governor. He wants to be the first on many things. And if you do that, you got to pay a lot of attention.
It seems like there's a changing feeling when it comes to the California electorate when it comes to crime. We've seen these great pendulum swings throughout California history. We see recently Prop 36, the effort to reform Prop 47, passing overwhelmingly, despite a lot of Democrats opposing it.
Pendulum's obviously going to swing. If you walk down the street and you see people shooting up heroin, sitting in a tent, if you see break-ins, if your own car is broken in, as most people have experienced, they're not going to like it. And for some reason, which I can't understand, the police, the DAs, and the judges are not enforcing misdemeanors. And that's why you got this Prop 36, because shoplifting, you get caught, that's a year in jail. You get caught twice, that can be 2 years. But they didn't enforce it. Whatever reason, I think they could have used the misdemeanor, but for some reason, everybody gave up on it, and therefore the people voted by overwhelmingly, they want it stopped. They want shoplifting punished. They want drug use, particularly when they can see it, stopped. And I think that's the meaning of 36. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican or somewhere in between, that's the way people want it.
Let's end with some fun stuff about you. We had the privilege of visiting you at your ranch, Governor Brown, and it is extraordinary in Colusa County. What's life like for you these days?
We had our 8th olive harvest. We had 100 volunteers out here, mostly some family, but mostly people who worked in the governor's office and worked in my campaigns. And the 100 people picked 2.1 tons of olives, and we're going to have that. It's going to be pressed. We'll probably get 600 12-ounce bottles of Mountain House olive oil. So that was a big success. Then we had to get ready for the rains, and otherwise I'm doing my work on the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, my China Climate Institute. Also, I've got a charter school in Oakland with 500 kids, 6 through 12, and I do a lot of Zoom interviews like the one we're doing now. So it's busy, but I can tell you, being on this ranch, it's beautiful. It's wonderful to see the animals, the deer, the elk. It's a good place, and I wouldn't trade it to go back and get into the muck and the mire of the budget and the politics and all the clashing that goes on. I mean, there's a lot of noise and a lot of emptiness.
So we'll end with personal issues. These are things that come to mind. First thing that you can think of, who is your favorite philosopher that you've been thinking about recently?
I would say it's an obscure man by the name of Ivan Illich. He was a Catholic priest, a real contrarian, a type of anarchist who was against all the institutions, but in a very, very interesting way.
Not surprising you would like a real contrarian. What is your favorite meal to cook for your wife?
My favorite meal that I cook for my wife are leftovers. She cooks it the first time, and I take care of it the second and third time.
Okay. And what's the best thing she cooks for you?
Everything is good. Everything's good.
Yeah.
She's a fantastic cook. And, we have to go 50 miles to the store. So we stock up, and we're ready.
What is your favorite quote or motto?
Well, the motto that I put on the Oakland school was a Latin motto, Age Quod Agis. And that was the motto we had at the Jesuit seminary. And it means, in English, do what you're doing. And it means pay attention, be fully engaged, give yourself wholeheartedly to the task at hand. And they used to say that to me because while I was picking grapes, I'd want to carry on conversations about theology or philosophy. And the priest would say, Brother Brown, Age Quod Agis, do what you're doing, pick those grapes.
And there is so much truth that happiness is often being present, which is exactly what you're talking about. Governor Brown, we love having you on the show.
Well, good. I appreciate the continuing relevance.
When we come back, Dr. Drew Pinsky on efforts to make America healthy again. Stay with us.
The most valuable thing to do right now, in addition to social distancing, is set up some place where you could go get isolated.
That was March 2020 when Dr. Mehmet Oz joined Dr. Drew Pinsky and myself for a nightly show we hosted throughout the pandemic. Now, Dr. Oz has been appointed by President-elect Trump to serve as the administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Meanwhile, he'd potentially work with Trump's pick for Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., another friend of our next guest. Dr. Drew Pinsky is a board-certified internist and longtime TV host. You can find his work at drdrew.com. Dr. Drew, welcome back to The Issue Is. So good to see you.
Alex, it is. I was sitting here thinking as you were ramping up, my goodness, I feel like we were like war buddies, like we were in combat together. We're being reunited at a VA center.
Yeah, and we'll go back and talk about that time in a moment and about Trump's picks. But the broad idea, and this is really a Bobby Kennedy Jr. idea, of make America healthy again, which is something that Donald Trump is embracing. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means asking questions. I don't know if you've noticed, but one of the sort of phenomena that was laid bare by COVID was this phenomenon of you don't ask questions, you just toe the party line, which is the opposite of science, was the opposite of how healthcare has always been done. And just asking, now we can now ask simple questions, and it's really Bobby Kennedy that's been spearheading this. We can ask without any prejudicial sense of what is causing these things. We just need to ask, why so much chronic disease? Why so much obesity? Why so much autism? And we need to answer those questions. That's all. Just answer the questions, not assume we're going to find one explanation or another, but we can now start to look at those things. Now, in the process of doing so, we have to understand that there's been some encumbrances in our regulatory bodies and in our NIH and the research center, and that too was laid bare by COVID.
What do you think, though, of Donald Trump, who frequently eats McDonald's and KFC and drinks Diet Coke, being the Make America Healthy Again guy?
Well, the irony is not lost on me, Alex, and I appreciate bringing that up. But one of the things I want to say about that, look, whatever he's done for him, whether or not he could extend his life further, he probably could. But I hope I'm as good as him when I'm his age.
So during COVID, we talked with Dr. Oz at least once a week, if not more, and his appointment immediately made me think of you. Obviously, he's got a lot of critics out there as well. What do you make of Dr. Oz's appointment?
Mehmet Oz was the chairman of the Department of Cardiovascular Surgery at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital for years, when that was one of the highest level of achievement a doctor could have in this country, period. I know Mehmet. He is a brilliant guy. He's a well-meaning guy. He only wants to serve and do good.
Meanwhile, RFK Jr.'s critics slam his vaccine skepticism. They're concerned that could increase diseases if he says gets away from vaccine mandates for something like polio. What say you?
Yeah. Well, listen, I first interviewed Bobby Kennedy about 2.5 years ago. He leaned in, he goes, Drew, you're so brave to talk to me. And I thought, brave that a physician and attorney should talk in a public, that requires bravery? We have a problem. And then number two, he persuaded me, and I've had multiple conversations about this since, something that I was not aware of, which was the excessively cozy relationships and the adulterating influence of our regulators and our pharmaceutical organizations. That needs to be unraveled. I mean, he knows how to do that. He knows how, I mean, he turned the Hudson River from one of the dirtiest bodies of water to one of the cleanest bodies of water in the country. And he did it by looking at large organizations, looking at their adulterating influences, untangling it, and getting things right. I welcome that.
Lastly, we were together for so much of COVID, and the way people think about that period is different now that we have 2020 hindsight. What do you think is the biggest lesson, biggest takeaway from that period?
For me, when you say that, what occurs to me is the black-white, so to speak, the no gray thinking that people have about that period. And you and I both know, Elex, every night we were just navigating, right? We were trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong. Things are very nuanced in medicine. For instance, you can say the vaccine saved lives in the darker hours of Alpha and Delta, at the same time as you can question whether a 22-year-old should be getting a booster in the current era. You can do these things. You can hold two ideas in mind and try to ascend to the truth. It's not all one way or the other.
We'll wrap things up with our favorite game here, personal issues. These are your cultural favorites. First thing that comes to mind, since we haven't caught up in a while. So you ready, Dr. Drew?
Am I ready? It's a relative state question. Go ahead.
What is the favorite TV show you've binged lately?
That I binged on? Probably, what's the one that Gene Smart is in?
Hacks on HBO. Favorite movie you've seen lately?
I have not been to a movie in forever, but I am going to see Gladiator 2.
Okay. Favorite podcast other than your own?
There's a podcast called, it's Sean Carroll's podcast. He's a Caltech professor. He was a Caltech professor about physics. I'm a ridiculous nerd. It's pathetic.
And what is your favorite holiday tradition?
Thanksgiving dinner with as much of the family and extended family I can get together.
It's not about who can spend the most money on gifts, but it's about spending time together as a family and eating a lot, and football. All are great. So we wish you and your family, your lovely wife Susan, and your whole crew a very happy Thanksgiving.
Dr. Drew.
Grandfather.
Imagine that. My son's going to have a baby in January, so get ready for that, Alex.
Happy congratulations to you.
Thank
Very
you.
Cool. Grandpa,
Weird.
Dr. Drew Pinsky. We'll be right back with more of The Issue Is to wrap things up. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be right back after this.
Have a great holiday. Have a great holiday.
It's pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie.
It warms my heart to be able to do this kind of stuff, really, for the community.
The LA Dodgers handing out turkeys this week in anticipation of Thanksgiving. Next week on The Issue Is a special edition entitled Athletes Who Serve. We'll talk to players from the Dodgers, the Lakers, the Rams, all about their efforts to lift up our community. It is a perfect Thanksgiving week show, and we hope you'll enjoy it. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, a very happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.